Hey. For all of you who are new here, where y'all been? Cause catch up. And all of y'all who have always been here, welcome back to the gang. So we're gonna give the guests a few minutes to join, and then we're gonna start. So anyway, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure y'all liking, comment, subscribing. All of the lives that we do on Instagram does go to YouTube. So maybe y'all should take this time, hop over if y'all not already subscribed. While we waiting for her to join, go over there, subscribe to the channel, give me some feedback if you like. We're gonna give her a few minutes. I'm actually gonna make sure that she's able to join so that we can start. Okay. Anyway, while we waiting for her, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? Because I'm like, this awkward silence is not doing it for me. How y'all doing? While we're waiting for her to join, I want to also say, and I will say this again, Happy Women's History Month. Shout out to all the women out there doing a big one. The world don't revolve if we not here, so make sure y'all know that. Just gonna make sure that she's able to join. Okay. Gonna give her like a few more minutes, then we're gonna get started. The only thing about Instagram Live is that you can't really like cut, edit, you can't really do the things, you know what I mean? Like, this how you know it's like live in the action, live and direct here. Because you can't really be like, all right, pause, let me, we just looking at each other, vibing. I love you. I love you too. But yeah, we just looking at each other vibing until we actually could start. But it's like the funniest thing to me anyway. All right. So, Kristen, maybe I should, okay, there we go. I'm like, maybe I should vibe check. No, have you? Yo, shout out to Funny Marco, vibe check. That's hilarious. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Well, I'm going to do a little intro before we get started, but I want to first, before I even do that, thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. Like, I'm super excited for this conversation. This is like an amazing way for us to kick off Women History Month is to have you here. So I'm like super stoked. So I'm like, I'm ready to get in it. So let me do this cute little intro so we can like get right
Gotcha.
into it. I'm super excited. All right. So this, hi family, once again. Welcome to In Session MFT, in being an acronym for the word intentional. So intentional sessions where we use this platform to talk about all things from relationships, whether that's relationships with yourself or family, friends, partners. And we also use this platform to talk about conversations that needs to be held. That we also not really shine light on. And I want to point out the fact that just because the conversations are not happening doesn't mean that it's not happening. So I want to be able to use this platform to shine light on different conversations that is desperately needed to have. So I'm like trying to rush through all of the actions because I'm so excited to have this conversation. So Ms. Farmer, Christine, I don't know how you want me to introduce you, but in this moment, I would like for you to take the moment to introduce yourself so we can get started.
Well, thank you so much for having me on and for reaching out. I guess just to give context, you said that you had saw a video I had posted on TikTok. or something? Is that
Yes.
how
Oh my
we
goodness,
connected?
yes.
Okay.
So I was gonna get into that. Really, before we get into that, just kind of tell everyone your name, and then we're good.
Yeah. So I'm Christin Farmer. And I was just thinking that that was probably just a good segue, and I know that you'll get to it. But thank you
Mm-hmm.
for having me on. I've been in birth work for well over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
My dream as a 16-year-old was to become a midwife.
Wow.
And my life took all type of loops and swoops, but I ended up becoming a doula, and I ended up building a doula agency from the ground up called Birth and Beautiful Communities. In 2021, I had to take a step back because I had like a bunch of personal issues going on. And then I recently launched another organization called All About Moms. And that has to do, of course, with birth and motherhood. And that mission is around protecting or preserving the sanctity of birth and motherhood. So I'm just very passionate about women, women's health, women's sanity, you know, and the bonding between the mother and the child.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So I want to thank you for sharing. I want to backtrack, like you said, just this, and I want to also pinpoint a lot of the things that you already mentioned. So yes, I seen your TikTok. So TikTok. I'm just scrolling, and then I came across a video that you had posted on your TikTok and your what I later found out was on your Instagram page. And I want to make sure that I'm quoting it correctly, but it was around basically the role of the mother and um, just overall what I got from it was the way that the child behaves or the way that the child feeds off of the mother is through their happiness. So it's
Mhm.
not about being in a two-parent home, it's about being in a happy home. And so when I seen that, I was like, wow. So I'm just like, wow, I've never thought about that. And that's also not like a normalized, popularized thought process.
Mhm.
And so when I seen that, I said, okay, cool. Let me see what's going on. Because for somebody to even post something like that, I needed to like dig deeper into it. And so I
Mhm.
started to dig deeper into your TikTok, and I'm like, all right, where's her Instagram? So because I needed more, and I was so drawn into your social media platforms because I'm just like, this is perfect. This is a mindset that a lot of people don't even know we have access to. And I want to get into your doula work and certain things that you have also posted, but I want to just wrap up. I was super amazed by what you have already posted in your content, that I felt, and I had to dig deeper, and I'm so happy that I did because you did not disappoint at all. I was just very in awe of all the things that you already do. So just really quickly, what made you post that? Like what gravitated
Mhm.
towards you to be able to post something like that?
Well, so in my work, I've always talked about the importance of the mother being healthy,
Mm,
you know, in order for the not just the child or the family unit, but also the community,
yeah.
you know, because it all begins with the mother. And I don't know if you had a chance to see like all of the comments, but there were a lot of mainly men who were really upset
Mm-hmm.
about her saying that. And they're like,
Yeah.
no, it's the daddy in the house and is not the father in the house because
Mm-hmm.
the father can be in the house, but that doesn't mean that he is treating the mother well, right? Like
Exactly.
she may be depressed because of him. What if he's abusive towards her, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, it is not always just, oh, the father is in the household. Like, no. It goes to the mother being the natural nurturer.
Yeah.
And we see this across all species, though.
Yeah.
It's not just humans, you know, even in the animal kingdom, right? You know, the lioness and the
Mm-hmm.
elephants.
Yeah.
You know, the lioness take care of the cubs, right? And they all come together as a sisterhood in order to nurture the young. The
Mm-hmm.
same is true for elephants. The same is true for bears, right?
Yeah.
And most of those, a lot of those species are kind of moms. I mean, it's not to,
Wow, yeah.
not that I'm saying that I'm like promoting single motherhood, but I'm just saying like even in the animal kingdom, it's like bears, they raise their babies on their own, right?
Mm-hmm.
We learn everything from our mother, or the primary caregiver, which 95% of the time is the mother. And
Yeah.
of course there are some exceptions to that rule, right? I mean, there are a lot of people like, okay, well, I didn't have a mother growing up and I'm still thriving. Like, yeah, then it shifts to whoever your primary caregiver is.
Right.
But generally, your primary caregiver is your mother.
Mm-hmm. So why would you feel like people had so much, and by people, majority men, had so much pushback to that comment?
I mean, I think it's a lot of things. I saw this like ridiculous post that where Akon was speaking, and he was talking about how the man is basically the God, and everything comes from the man, and this is why women need to obey men, because he was even talking about like how a man could make a baby in a lab or something crazy. Like, it was the most crazy thing I've
Oh
ever heard
my God.
before. And I was just like, and actually he was on Joe Budden's show, and Joe Budden was like, he was like, yeah, I've been saying that for years. And I was just like, idiots,
It's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, okay, granted, we do need one another, right? I mean, a part of procreation is between a male and a female. Again, that's every species.
Yeah.
But when we are talking about the health, the well-being, the quality of life for
Mm-hmm.
the child, then we are talking about, if mama is well, then baby is well, right?
Yeah.
If the mama crying, what the baby gonna do? You know,
Right.
the
Yeah.
baby is looking to the mother for
The miracle.
direction, for the demonstration, for it's like, so again, let me go back to mama bears,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, they can't physically or verbally speak, right? So all of what they teach the child is through demonstration. They teach the child how to climb a tree. They teach the child how to fish for salmon. They teach the cub how to, store food for the winter so they can hibernate. Like, it's
Yeah.
all through demonstration. It's nonverbal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we tend to think that like we can tell our kids to do something without us having to demonstrate it. Like, as a child, like, hey, not as I do. But that's just not a normal, natural thing for any species. We learn through the demonstration. We don't learn through words.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that is so true. I didn't even think about that level of perspective, other than I was like, well, these are men. They don't really know anything. So I'm happy that you
Yeah.
to dissect
It,
that. Um,
yeah. And it's not what it is, I think also too, is like, it's a threat, because
mm,
then for them it's like, what do you mean I don't matter? But
yeah.
nobody is saying that you don't matter. You know what I mean? Like, but we are also in a society now where, men think they the prize too. So, it's
That's a whole
so
nother.
so saying that, it's like, it's not negating fatherhood. We need fathers. We
Yeah.
need fathers. We need men. We do want men around, but we want healthy men around. We want
Yeah.
healthy fathers around. We don't want fathers in the house who's abusing and beating the mother up.
Yeah.
That doesn't make a good environment for the child. You might
Right.
as well be a single mother. If he beating you up, that's not going to be healthy for that child. And let me just back up and say too, hey RC, somebody just joined. I know him. He asked what's the topic.
No problem. We'll circle
Yeah,
it back.
right.
Let's finish
We
your point.
talking about a viral. Well, right now we're talking about this viral video that I posted on TikTok, where the Dr. Spirit, she says how the number one indicator to whether or not a child is going to thrive is the quality of happiness of the mother. And so, but there was a lot of people, men mainly, who were negating that. And to that, I'm just saying, like, it doesn't mean that the man doesn't matter. It does. He does matter. If he's healthy, it matters.
Yeah.
If he's unhealthy and is going to be abusive to the child or the mother, then no, we don't want him in the house, because
Right.
then he's now teaching the next generation how to be abusive to, in their households as well too, or
Mm-hmm.
how to not love themselves. So yeah, that was loaded.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you, because that's definitely what gravitated me towards seeing more of your platform, just along of that idea of like, yes, we do want men in the home, but a healthy man. And what is the difference between an unhealthy environment versus motherhood? And how does that affect the child? And it's like a whole different level of sequence of events that has to happen. And one of the things that you have wrote under your comment was that whole stigma of like, you know, happy wife, happy life, and how um, a lot of people don't even think towards that whole dynamic. And so that definitely speaks to your point of the impact that a mother has towards their child. Is like a mirror. So wherever the mom is at, the child then sees. And like you said, if you can't if you can't stick with a woman and be that healthy man, you might as well just like, she might as well be in a single relationship or a single mom. So
Leave her alone. Yeah, leave her
yeah,
alone.
leave
Leave
her,
her alone
aka leave her
if you
alone.
can't be healthy. If you can't be healthy, yeah.
I'm like reading the comments like, you want a man, not a stepson. For
Right.
sure.
You know,
Listen, you
absolutely.
don't want to
And I
compete.
just want to say this part too.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it too like this. It doesn't matter what the mother is going through. A
Mm-hmm.
child still wants to be with their mother. They don't care if their mother is on drugs, if she got an
Mm-hmm.
alcohol problem, if she homeless, like they want to be with their mothers.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, right? Like it's just a natural thing though.
Mm-hmm.
And then think about it because we spend 9 months inside of this person.
Yeah, that was
We are so energetically connected to this woman, you know, who carried us. We felt everything she felt for 9 months. We consumed everything that she consumed for 9 months. So to think that once the baby is born and the umbilical cord is cut, but the energetic cords are never cut.
mm-hmm.
That the energetic cords will never die, will never be cut. So the bond is important. And as women and as mothers, we also have to be mindful too, like before we have children, you know, as to what does this look like? What am I bringing,
Yeah.
you know, to my child? And granted, we human, right? I have a son, I get it. He's 16. And it's like we are doing the best that we can, you know, with what we know.
Yeah.
But that's why it's important for the mother to have a village around her.
Mm. So how important do you feel like community is for raising children? Because I know I raised the point of it takes a village to raise a child, but as an adult, we tend to grow alone. And
Mhm.
so how do you feel like, how important do you feel like community is with them raising children into
One
adult?
100% important. You know, 100% important. And I have to say this too, just an example, and I guess I'm reminded of it because RC did jump on for a second. But so he is a teacher and a coach at my son's school.
Mm.
And my son goes to an all boys school,
Okay.
right? And so there was a level of love, care, attention that I couldn't give him that he needed from other men,
Mm.
right? Because
Okay.
generally it's an all boys school, it's 350 boys,
Oh.
but the majority of the, you know, staff is male, and then, you know, he plays sports and then they kind of coach them on and off the field, right?
All right.
There's no way I could do that alone.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because I'm a mother, so and I'm coming from this more feminine aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I can give them all the nourishment, all the nurturing, all the care, everything in the world. But recognizing too that I can't do it all, right?
Yeah.
That he also needed this experience as a brotherhood,
Yeah.
through a brotherhood that he can only get from other males,
Yeah.
and that he can only get from older males. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Within the community as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so the community is extremely important, and that's something that we don't have,
Yeah.
which is why women are suffering, which is why mothers are suffering. It's
Mm-hmm.
because we don't have that community, because mothers do need a break, you
Mm-hmm.
know. mothers do need to be able to pursue their dreams and pursue their goals. A part of the reason why I was able to build, no, I won't even say a part of the reason, a huge reason why I was able to build Birth and Beautiful Communities was because my grandmother lived at home, lived in my home. And my son was taken care of by the other women in my family,
Nice.
you know, from my mother to, and it didn't make me a deadbeat mom, you know what I mean? Like I was still providing everything. I still spent time with him. I still did, but generationally, it also was important for him to learn from her and for her to learn from him, right? So community is 100%. You can't raise a fully well-fledged child without community. It's so important.
For sure. I agree. Let's just talk about Birth and Beautiful Communities for a second. That was your first business that you have started, correct? So
Yeah.
what kind of launched that? Where was your thought process? Like what was in you saying this is what we need, this is what I'm gonna do?
That's funny because you know what? I actually just started uploading some videos on TikTok where I'm like actually telling a story because I am journeying back into birth after a 3-year hiatus. And so it's chronicling my journey of when I first started to just where I'm at now. So originally, again, my driving force was that I wanted to become a midwife. But at the time, I only knew one track to become a midwife, which was to become a nurse and then do 2 more years to become a midwife. Well, at 16, I really, really could not fathom having to wait until I was 24 to work with mothers and babies. Like that just seemed so far away from me, you know? So I did go off to college. I did initially start off in a nursing major, but then I changed my major because I didn't want to be a nurse. So this was the thing. I wanted to be a midwife, but I did not want to be a nurse because I didn't want to work in a hospital. I wanted to do home births or I wanted to do birthing center births. So after I took my first semester of classes in nursing, I was like, yeah, I'm still 100% sure I don't want to be a nurse. So I ended up changing my major and I graduated with a communication studies degree. But then after I graduated, I was still wanting to pursue midwifery. So I applied to this college called the Utah College of Midwives and they denied me. And I was just like, excuse y'all, like, this is my dream. What do you mean? You know? But what they say, like a denial is not never a denial, it's a delay, right? So so they told me I needed to get more birth experience, is what they said. So I was like, okay, that's fair. So that's how I became a doula. I never considered being a doula before that. You know, I just was tunnel vision, midwifery, this is what I want to do. So then I trained to become a doula. And then like shortly after that, well, no, actually at the end of the training, when they ask you like, well, what are you gonna do with this training? I immediately was like, oh, I'm gonna build an agency. I had no idea what, you know, how that was gonna go or how I was gonna do that. I ain't had no money. Like I just was like, that's what I'm gonna do. So I ended up coming back at a full-time job and this program that I was working on, and let me just speak to the divinity of this real fast because I was a volunteer doula. I had a full-time job and I had like a couple clients or whatever. And so my job that I had required me to have to be on site at like some of these institutions. And 2 of those institutions were hospitals. Go to the hospitals, I would like go to the labor and delivery. That's what I like. Right. So I started to like befriend the midwives, you know, and started to build relationships with the midwives. And so they were like, well, hey, if we have women who come in who need support, like, can we call you for labor and delivery? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. So it started off that way. And then I kind of put out a PSA because I was looking for some more Black doulas because at the time, I thought I was like the only Black doula in Cleveland. I did not know any other doulas. And I was like, that's crazy because then everybody was talking to me about infant mortality and stuff. And I was like, why there ain't no Black doulas here? So when I started this work, when I tell you, like, nobody knew what a doula was, like, I used to spend all my time spelling the word doula and defining what it is. Like, nobody knew. Like, when I tell you I built that organization from the ground up, I built it from the ground up. There was like nothing, nobody knew anything about this.
Nice.
And so I then said, I was like, the two clients that I had, one was 16, one was 20, and they had like just a lot going on in their lives. And so I just asked, I said, they need a village, like they need a sisterhood. They need something more than just even what I can provide to them. Like they need a sisterhood. And so then that's when I kind of put out the PSA and I asked, are there any more Black doulas here? And then once I got like responses from people, then I asked them like, hey, can we meet up? And so we did. We started to just meet up like every month. And then I remember telling them like, listen, because they all wanted to leave their full-time jobs and do this full-time. Wow. And I remember saying to them like, hey, if you just hold tight, I said, I promise I'm gonna, make it happen. I had no idea I was gonna do this at the time. And then the divinity in it is that I was, for my job, I was in a meeting with my program director, and she worked for the foundation, and she was just leaned over and she was like, hey, do you have any ideas of what we could do about infant mortality? And I was like, yes, like, because I had been trying to bring a doula training to Cleveland for like a couple years maybe. Wow. So she was like, okay, well, I'm gonna hook you up with the project director or whatever, and then y'all, you do your presentation. Did the presentation, and then they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna give you $125,000 to start. I was like, what? Right. So that was how it initially started, and then from there we were awarded like $1.1 million from the state, to expand across the county. And then everything just started to just happen and roll in. And and the rest is history, so to speak.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Thank you. I'm like in awe. Like, conversation is done here now. Seriously, wow, that is amazing. So you speak also to not just the advocating for birth, but educating on like stillbirth and mortality as well.
Yes. Well, let me just say this. I used to. Okay. I have evolved to a different place to where I really want to focus on the solution, which is the health and well-being of the mother, right? Because right now the narrative is, and of course this, I won't make the story long on here. I'm going to make it long on TikTok. Yeah. But I was feeling out of alignment with like the industry, with like the nonprofit sector, right, at the time, which that's I've always been a nonprofit. And one of the kind of issues that I take with nonprofit is that it hyper focuses so much on the problem. And that's why nothing ever gets solved. Yeah. And it's all of this money that's being poured into continuously talking about the problem and looking at it. And I'm like, that's not how it works. Yeah. Like, we have to shift our perspective, and we have to look at the solution and start from there and let that be it. So I don't even talk about infant mortality and that stuff no more, other than me saying like, okay, this is a problem, but the solution is we need to hyper focus on the mother and her well-being before she even becomes pregnant. Because one of the issues is that as women, we don't know anything about our bodies. We don't. It's not until we get pregnant, then we start looking through all these books and Googling and be like, oh, what's happening and what's going on, right? Nobody prepares us to give birth. And yes, granted, a lot of women may decide not to go on to give birth, right? And that's fine. Yeah. But there are more women who decide to give birth than those who don't. Yeah. So there should be sort of this stepping stone early on in our lives to where we understand our bodies. And so we have so much fear around our bodies that we don't allow our bodies to do what our bodies know how to do. And we interfere with that process. And that was a part of the reason why I didn't want to work in a hospital setting, is because I wanted to get as close to this natural, sacred event, because I look at birth as sacred. Like I've literally cried at every single birth I've attended. So it's very spiritual in nature. So it's like I desire to preserve that.
So I want to stay on this topic of birthing, and one of the things that I gravitated towards was the ideas of natural birth versus C-section. So now, my sister actually brought up this topic. She has a friends who've also had babies in her as well, and we're just looking around and seeing like the C-section rate is like is skyrocketing. And so I don't know if that's like a new thing or not, but it is becoming very popularized these days, or this day and age. So I just want you to just speak towards just C-section and natural birth, as well as one of the things that I really liked that you said was the body is meant to do what it's gonna do. And so like the popularity of or the options that they feel like we have to do a C-section, and you're ripping your body of what it's naturally supposed to do. And so if you could just speak about that,
Yeah.
the idea of it.
So in the same way that when you cut yourself or when you get sick, your body knows how to heal itself. Your body knows how to heal that cut. And without you don't have to tell your body to heal the cut. You're not looking down and you like, oh, can you heal and cover that up with a scab? Like your body knows how to do that. And the same thing when you fall ill, when you get a cold, you know what I'm saying, or you catch the flu, like you might be down for a few days, but your body knows what to do. And generally, what it's telling you to do at that time is rest because it knows what to do. So the same is true for birth. Like your body knows what to do. You don't have to tell your body to give birth. It knows how to do it. In fact, people been on this planet for how long? I mean, for as long as people been on this planet, is as long as our bodies have been able to give birth. Now, do things go wrong? Yes, right? They can. But 85% of women are able to birth naturally and normally. And that number probably is high, could be a bit higher, maybe closer to 90%. That women are able to birth naturally and normally with no issues, right? So that is only true. The C-section rate is that high rate is only true in the United States. The vast majority of developed countries, they have much better birth outcomes in the United States. But what's also true too is that the vast majority of the births are attended by midwives, as opposed to the vast majority of births in the United States are attended by OBGYNs. And so midwives are
just like, could we just elaborate on that just a bit?
Yeah, midwives are like they are specifically trained in well woman care, right? Like they're not looking for an issue to be wrong. They're coming in already like everything is gonna go right, right? If something doesn't go right, then they generally have a partnership with like a hospital where they can make a quick transfer to a hospital and let an OBGYN take care of it, right? But OBGYNs are trained surgeons. Like, yes, they're trained in woman's care, but they are trained surgeons. So if anything starts to present itself as a potential, they like get her back to the C. We got to do a C-section, right? Whereas the midwife might try to do something else, right? So if the baby is breech, the OBGYN general will say, get her back to the C-section, right? But a midwife might be like, let's try to move the baby. And there's a whole course. I'm actually about to take the course. It's called Spinning Babies.
Oh my God.
But it's like helping the baby to flip around while still in the womb, right? So they might try to do that. Or they might just go ahead and deliver the baby breech. You know? So we have limited ourselves to options in the United States, and it just has become our norm. So we don't see anything wrong with it. Like we just schedule C-sections all the time. But here's the most interesting part about it. Oh my God. Girl, you got me going because this is my passion.
Listen, I'm eating up. Listen.
This is my passion, okay? But let me tell you how it, like, I get it. If you have to have a C-section and a doctor tell you that that's what you have to do, and it's that I understand. And I'm not talking about those women who need that, right? But do you know that, like, it is so important for the newborn to pass through the birth canal? Because when the baby passes through the birth canal has the microbes that the baby will need for the rest of its life. It literally can prevent over 1,000 non-communicable diseases just by passing through the birth canal because of what the baby gets covered with.
Okay.
When you are coming out the birth canal. So this is how nature designed it. Nature designed it in the same breath as breastfeeding, right? Breastfeeding has thousands of benefits. Thousands of benefits. So passing through the birth canal is healthier for the baby in the long term, short term and long term, than coming through the abdomen or the C-section, the uterus, I'm sorry. You know, and so this is beyond us just saying, oh, we are against C-sections. Like, no, it's not about being against C-sections. If you need to have a C-section, then have a C-section, right? But what I'm saying there's so many more benefits to your baby, short term and long term, which you having a natural vaginal birth for you and the baby, because the recovery time is shorter when you have a vaginal birth than when you have a C-section.
Right. So also, what do you think about the like getting the epidural versus the pain or the mind tricks that people play on childbirth as a whole?
Yeah. So first of all, it's called labor for a reason. Like, it's hard work. Like it's hard work. You know what I mean? Like, you are getting ready to part ways with a fully developed human being inside of you, and that baby is coming out, right? So it is a mindset thing. It is, right? So I had my son 16 years ago. I did get an epidural, but I went into it wanting a natural birth. And I think that this was a part of the reason why I was so passionate too about like building birth and beautiful communities. Like, my own experience was like, I didn't have a doula. I wanted a doula, wouldn't know where to look for one. I was in college, so I certainly couldn't have paid for one. And I had this plan in my head, like, I'm going to here to do a natural birth, right? And it was my mother and my son's father that was at the hospital with me. And I think my mother thought she was being a doula, but she really wasn't. I mean, she was just in there telling me, like, well, when I was giving birth to you, then I'm like, I don't need to hear that. Like, you know, but that is the importance of having a doula there, because, right, Ashley B said she couldn't take the pain. She wish she had someone to guide you through it. That's what the doula is there for. The doula is there to remind you of your strength, you know, because it's going to be times where you just want to give up. You be like, I can't do this, right? But we know that that's not true, because you have to do it. The baby has to come out. But it's an analogy as well. Here's the beautiful part of it, is that birth is such an analogy to our life, right? Like, I always say that we die 1,000 times in our lifetimes, because we're constantly becoming a better version of ourselves or something. And it's painful when we are evolving to that next level, right? It hurts. We are like, I don't want to do this. I don't think I can make it. You got to call your friends. You got to call, you got to call your family. They got to talk you through it. You know what I mean? And so it's the same thing as really actually having a baby, right? Is that there is times within that labor process where you're going to be like, I can't, God chose the wrong one for this. I ain't be able to do it, right? But if you adamant and you like, no, I want to do this, then your doula is there helping and supporting you. Now, if you choose to have an epidural, fine, then get the epidural. The only thing about that is like sometimes there is what we call a cascade of interventions.
Okay.
And so what will happen is that they'll give you one thing. So they'll give you an epidural, right? And then because you can't move around after you get that epidural, you know, you numb from the waist down. So you
Right, right,
can't get up and normally move around, which is very important when you in labor is to move around.
right.
Um, so you confine to the bed, right?
Yeah.
Then they'll say, like, oh, the baby's heartbeat is has increased, is beating rapidly. Well, of course, because you haven't been able to get up and move around. You know what I mean? And the baby is like, hey, what's going on? Same thing when they give you Pitocin, which Pitocin is to jumpstart the contractions or to
Yeah.
help the contractions along. They give you the Pitocin, and then they like, oh, the baby's heart rate is up. Well, of course, because this is a fake. This is fake contractions. And the baby is conflicted. The baby like, wait a minute, I'm not doing that. That's not me. And so the baby is like, all right, well, now I'm in distress, right? Because I don't know what's going on in here. And so then they're like, oh, well, now we got to give you a C-section because the baby's heartbeat is rapid and up,
Yeah.
right? So that's the cascade of interventions that ends
Wow.
up sometimes leading a woman to having a C-section, is by sometimes just by getting that epidural. I mean, they give you an epidural when you get a C-section, period, because they got to numb
Yeah.
you. But it all can be prevented. And I'm a fan of home birth. I'm a fan of natural birth. If I have any more children, I will be doing home births. I got midwives on deck, midwives and doulas on deck. So so I know I can get through it. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's huge. And first off, I had no idea that that was like the cluster of how it goes, and I can't help but think about like the money that is in childbirth and how that has a huge effect on the way you deliver. The money that they're trying to get from your insurance or from you, um, and from the woman of color, is because we don't often know how to advocate for ourselves. And I mean, we could go into a whole list of things of like, people of color in healthcare. That's a whole other conversation. But in a sense of, it just costs more money to get a C-section than to push the baby out. And so they don't give you these different options. No one in the hospital says, well, this is what could happen if this happens. And they don't really take that time to walk with you step by step and let you know your options. They just say, well, here's what you should do, and let's do it. And then a mom is already at an all-time high. I mean, they're about to give birth to a whole human. No one is thinking logically. So like the presence of a doula is huge. I'm just like, I'm just soaking it all in because it is something that a lot of people need, but a lot of people don't know that they can gain access to a doula. So if you can speak to more things, like if it's just like randomly, like what are more things that doulas can advocate um, for when moms are, and you said it starts prior to even getting pregnant. So just kind of speak a little bit towards that.
Yeah, so I would say that so there are a few different type of doulas, and I know a lot of people get different names, full spectrum, and there's different types of doulas, but mainly for me and the type of doulas that I have like worked with, trained, that sort of thing, are birth doulas and postpartum doulas, and then also bereavement doulas. So birth doulas, as you could imagine, those are the ones that like meet with you a few times before the birth, help you develop a birth plan, and then they're there with you at the labor and delivery. And they'll probably come and see you again once or twice after the baby is born. But then that's where the postpartum doula picks up. And the postpartum doula comes to see you and helps to support you. They can help you with lactation, whether or not they are a lactation counselor. But all doulas are trained in breastfeeding.
Okay.
So they can help to support that process as well. And then, of course, the bereavement doula is there for those who have lost babies, either through stillbirth, miscarriage, ectopic pregnancies, any of the losses. I would say too that I think that there are, oh, I can't remember if I said 5 or 6 times. I'm gonna try to let me get through all of them quickly. So I think that there are like 5 or 6 times that women need a doula in their lives.
Okay.
I think that a woman needs a doula in her life when she's pregnant, that being a pregnant birth doula, postpartum period, postpartum doula. And then I think a woman needs a doula at this very critical time of her life, usually somewhere between like 35 and 45, where she's kind of going through like this rebirth, where she's no longer who she was, but she's not really sure who she's becoming. And it's just a gray area in there, right? I always call it like this rebirth period. Then I think a woman needs a doula when she is approaching menopause, because that's another time that like we don't talk about menopause. Like I'm 38. Nobody has talked to me about menopause yet. Like, I don't even know. I have no idea what to expect, when that time comes. Because again, nobody teaches women about our bodies. Nobody teaches us about our bodies.
I'm like, that's not.
And so, yeah, right. I mean, let me back up. So the first doula is when we're teenagers, right? I call it it's the pubescent. It's like the pubescent time, that when you are kind of coming through puberty, and no to us either. I think when I started my cycle, I was 11 years old. They're given, I'm sure she was doing her best. There's no shade to my mother. She had bought me some pads and was like, oh yeah, like use these. And then she was like, well, let's call your cousin and tell her that you had your period. I was like, oh my God, no. Like,
yeah.
But now you want to tell people, like, this is a lot, so it's just like not much sensitivity about that. You know what I mean? Like, I coming into this phase, I'm like, what does this mean? People like, oh, you can become a mother one day. It's like what? I'm like 11, right?
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
It's like a period, especially like growing up, like when you get your period, it just equates to like pregnancy. Like, oh, we gotta make sure let's do birth control. It's just like, well, you missed the step. You didn't actually tell me what a period was. Like, well, wait, how we get from period to childbirth?
Right. But that's the time right there where we should be teaching young girls about their bodies at that time. You know what I mean? And like, not to overwhelm you when you're that young, but just more so being like, you're a flower and you're sacred, and like, and your body can do amazing things, and and there's gonna be this experience and stuff like that, but we do not have that. Like, what is that about? Right. And so, and then the last time a woman needs a doula is when she's making her transition back into the spirit world. So when she's leaving Earth and going back into the spirit world. And I think, I don't know if that was 5. I think that was 5. 5 times. 5 times. I say a woman needs a doula 5 times in her life.
Wow.
And that being the last time.
Okay. Wow. You know what? When you hear doula, you only think about like the pregnancy portion, but in the hindsight, it just sounds like the person there to guide you through.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
I like that.
Peace and love. Peace and love, brother. Yeah. Well, the word doula comes from, and some people, of course, have traced it back to African origins, because we be tracing everything back to African origins. But the original, what I came to know a doula was, and the way it's spelt is from Greek, and it means a woman who serves. That's just the meaning, right? A woman who serves. And I am a doula through and through, because service has been my entire life, beyond just my career. I'm in service whether I'm getting paid or I'm not. Like that's just who I am. And so when people call me, I answer, and I'm there, and I'm coming, and I'm, and I'm helping, and
Yeah.
so it's just a woman who serves.
Okay, thank you. So I want to transition into the current business that you have. You mentioned a different name, so All About Moms. Is that just like a platform, or is that a business in itself?
Well, right now it's just more so of like a platform, but it
Okay.
is, so we have done childbirth education classes.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a doula training coming up. And I'm basically rebuilding, from, because when I left and it was like a very crazy time. And it's the whole, again, you got to go to TikTok for that whole story. But, because
Mhm.
because it kind of got a little messy
Yeah.
after a minute, because it was just disrespectful. I appointed somebody in a position, and it's messy,
Yeah.
and still navigating through that. So whatever, right? But
Mhm.
tabling that, the point for me is like, this is how I ended up when coming back from my hiatus, and
Okay.
just saying like, listen, birth is who I am, and I can start over a million times and still be successful, because
Hello.
this is just what I do. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like, this is just who I am. It's in me. You see how passionate I get when you ask me. I'm like, oh
Yes, I'm
no,
here for. I'm
yeah.
like, yep, guys,
And
talk about
and
it.
even I'm surprised a lot of times at like how much I actually know, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so innate
Mm-hmm.
to me that it's like I know so much about birth and motherhood and all of that.
It is true.
Breastfeeding, like, yeah,
Listen, when it's in you, it's in you. So that
right,
definitely you could always win when it's like this is where your purpose and your passion is.
right.
All right, so I want to switch gears, just not too much, but on the mental health portion of being mom. So I know a lot of people think of like postpartum, but we could touch on that, but I also want to talk about just how important mental health check-ins are for moms in general.
Hmm. They're very important. I mean, I just had like a mental health check-in with my sister yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that's ongoing. And especially for me, because I am what I always say, like, I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Okay.
And so I'm like, am recovering from things, for me being like, it got to be like this, and then this,
Mm-hmm.
and then this, and then this, and then this. And then if it don't go that way, then I'm like beating myself up about it, right?
Right.
And so, those sort of mental health check-ins are important. Again, that's why the village and the community is so important,
Right.
because that is what this is all about.
Right.
We can't do it alone. We're not designed to do it alone.
Exactly.
There's 8 billion people on this planet for a reason, right? Because we
Yeah.
need other people.
Yeah.
We can't do it by ourselves. And so definitely that mental health check is very important, whether that's a sister circle, or, a therapist, or massage therapy. There's different type of
Mm-hmm.
therapies, art
Yes.
therapy,
Yep.
Reiki,
Yep.
whatever it is that you feel like you need to do to get balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely. So all that is watching. Make sure you're like tapping in and the importance of not just moms, in general, mental health check-ins are important, and making sure that you're building that level of community so that you're able to speak to one another and have those conversations where we're asking each other how you doing mentally, and not just like, hey, how are you? No, how are you mentally? How's
Mhm.
your spirit today? How are you doing today? And actually wait for the response, guys. You can't just ask somebody how they doing and just keep going with life. You have to wait for the response. It's very important. So I
Mm.
want to
Right.
just tap into one last thing before we kind of wrap up. I don't want to take too much of your time, but um, one of the things that I thought was interesting that you have said was like motherly instincts. and you had spoken about different things as far as just like co-sleeping, like you're not gonna crush your baby, which I thought was hilarious, but very true. So, if you could just speak a little bit about motherly instincts and why do we feel so scared to do certain things that were like almost
Mhm.
impossible to do?
Yeah. Well, for one, because we've created this narrative in society that someone else has authority over our bodies other
Mm-hmm.
than in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we trust the authoritative figure,
Yeah.
which I guess a lot of times are like doctors and
Mm-hmm.
things, rather than ourselves. But our bodies are always speaking to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have separated so much, so far from our feminine um, aspect,
Yeah.
which is our intuition. And male and females both have masculine and feminine.
Right.
It's a balance within us, but we have veered so much over to the masculine side
Mm-hmm.
that we overthink everything. Like I often joke and I say like we are just too damn smart for our own good. Like we're
Right.
so smart, we're stupid, right? Like we are
Yeah.
we are degreed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But can't listen to
Our own.
inside
Yeah.
ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like so
Strength.
we get the degrees, but then we forget our nature,
Yeah.
And so I was even saying that in some of the response videos on TikTok, like this is nature, And so when we think about nature, I think that we just think about like animals and land and water.
Yeah.
We don't include ourselves as being a part of nature,
Right.
but we are nature. So it's getting back to basics, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are so many benefits with sleeping with your baby. For one, you don't have to get up in the middle of the night to make a bottle. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I breastfed my son for 13 months
Mm-hmm.
until he was ready to wean. But I also had family members saying to me when he was 4 months old, like, girl, that baby been breastfeeding for a long time. You need to take him off. I used to be like, he's 4 months old. Like, my God, you know what I mean? He's still a
Yeah.
baby. And
Mm-hmm.
so we have, because then it's like, oh, we got to get back to work as women, right? And we like, oh, I don't have time to do that. Like,
Right. Right. Right.
you have to make time. Like, motherhood is a priority.
Mm.
It is a priority. It's not your whole life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is a priority because this who this baby gonna lean on? This
You.
baby needs you. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? So like it's a priority. You have to do whatever it is that you need to do
Yeah.
to ensure that you can be there for your child. This child is looking up to you to be able to have the answers and figure things
Yeah.
out. And so you are not going to crush your baby. But a part of one of the frustrations that I was talking about within the nonprofit industry was like, they wanted me to do like education around safe sleep and all of
Yeah.
that. And I'm like, I'm not doing that because
Yeah.
it makes logical sense to y'all, make intuitive sense.
Right.
And so that's what I mean about that masculine energy. Like everything is so logical
Mm-hmm.
and there's no feeling.
Mm.
And the feeling is the intuition, and that's the feminine side. So
Right.
we have stripped femininity from birth and motherhood. And how is that if women give birth?
Give birth.
Right.
Exactly.
Like it has to be
Wow.
more on the feminine side because it's a feminine um what's the word I'm searching for? It's a feminine event.
Mm-hmm.
Like, birth is a feminine event.
Yeah.
Like, you know, again, when I think about these things, I'm not just limiting us to humans. I always think about this in the context of animals as
Yeah.
well, right? Like, so the female is the one that's giving birth. So there is more feminine
Energy.
energy that is with that. So what intuitive sense does that make to keep a baby who just been in you for 9 months alone
Um,
on the back in the crib? What?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't, I don't even think it make logical sense, but
Right.
it
And
definitely
then not
doesn't
to
make.
mention if that's not the case, then there's certain circumstances now you're like in trouble for not having your child, and like you said, the safe sleep, and is there proper bedding for the child? Is there this? It's
Right.
like we don't never think about the fact that this child actually has to sleep with, their parent, and it's
Yeah.
not an uncomfortable thing for them to do so. So
They have to
I
feel, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
it's
interject
okay.
there.
It's okay.
They have to feel the
Mm-hmm.
warmth. They've been inside of you this whole time. They have to feel the warmth. Your heartbeat regulates their heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Let let's put so it's so many things that people don't know and understand
Yeah.
about. Nature is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Nature doesn't make mistakes, right? Like this is how the baby, because the baby has been listening to your heartbeat this entire time they've been inside of you.
Yeah.
Your heartbeat regulates the baby's heartbeat.
Yeah.
So the baby needs to be close to you, near you, on your skin, on daddy's skin. That's why skin to skin is important,
Mm-hmm.
because it also promotes the nurturing and nourishing aspects of life,
Yeah.
right? And so now your baby alone in the back of the crib, having to regulate his own heartbeat, and it's only a few weeks old. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot. And so I'm also gonna throw in what Dr. Bruce Lipton says, where he
Okay.
says that we start to understand our environment when we are in the third trimester of our mother's womb.
Mm.
So as early as the third trimester, you are already starting to become aware of your
Grounding.
surroundings, right?
Yeah.
You're already starting to become aware of, like, you are a part of this group or these people. This is the language. This
Mm.
is, all of this. So then to come out and then you not with nobody is like, that's crazy. And actually, we
Ah,
said abandonment issues, and that is so true. We don't even realize that abandonment issues, for example, can start from being an infant.
being an infant.
Right there.
Wow.
That's true. It's really true.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't want to take up so much more of your time. This is like such a
You're
lovely
okay.
conversation.
You're
But
okay. Thank you.
um so for all of those who within our community, why is it important to seek out a doula?
Um, a doula provides many, many benefits during that time, from the education aspect for helping you to understand a lot of aspects about pregnancy and birth that you may otherwise have not known or
Mm-hmm.
understand. A doula helps you to prepare for that birth, lets you kind of go through all of the options that have. And that, I think perhaps the options piece is probably like the best part of having a
Yeah.
doula, because the doula's job is not to like tell you what to do.
Yeah.
We never tell you what to do. We just say, we present a platter of options. Like, this
Mm-hmm.
is what you can do. These are
Yeah.
all the things you can do. And if you do this, this is what this will be like. This is what this will be like.
Mm-hmm.
But doulas empower the mother to make informed decisions.
Mm.
Um, and that's important,
Right.
in the labor and delivery
Okay.
room, definitely. And so everybody does need a doula,
Yeah.
whether it's, even if it's one of those five doulas that
Yeah.
I outlined.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, everybody need a doula. Everybody need a woman who serves.
I listen. I agree. Let's moving forward. Everybody get a doula for all of you. And I'm a whole therapist who's like, no, maybe we need to do doulas instead. um, just because they hold your hand and walk you through different and provide you with way more options that you can imagine throughout your entire life cycle, which is amazing to be
Mhm.
honest. All right, Christin, anything up and coming that you want to share before we get out of here? Anything it doesn't even have to be up and coming, just to invite those who haven't already done so to your platform.
Yeah, so I'm working on several projects, but right now it's all about moms. And then I'm also working on a project called Sow 100 Seeds. And it's just an alternative way for organizations to fundraise, because the other thing that I do, so I love doing two things. I love birth and I love raising money
Mm,
for founders of nonprofit organizations.
mm,
So my consulting business does fund development, and that's specific, which, okay, I write grants, but it's not my favorite thing to do. My favorite thing is to create like these creative ways around raising money, because I believe in the power of founders. Like, I support founder-led organizations
yeah.
because they are doing God's work. You know what I'm saying? Like at Birth and Beautiful Communities, we were literally doing God's work.
Mm-hmm.
That team that I started with was just phenomenal. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I work with so many nonprofit founders who
Yeah.
are literally doing God's
Mm-hmm.
work. I mean, it makes me emotional. Like, it's beautiful. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing that I'm working on, is like working with these groups. I have a outrageous goal, but it's good because I need to do it. But it's like 100 organizations, $100 million.
Mm.
I want to be able to raise $1 million for each one of these organizations.
And you
And that's yeah, and the reason why is because, and I know you told me to keep it short. I'm so
will.
sorry.
It's okay.
Uh,
It's okay.
I'm trying to wrap it up
No,
here,
no,
but
you're
uh,
fine.
but this is important, because the reason why is because when I was, the other thing that kind of got me crossed
Mhm.
with the original organization, Birth of Beautiful Communities, was like, and when you are accepting funding from
Mhm.
these entities,
Yeah.
they have all of these stipulations, right?
Mhm.
So if you accepting funding from them, they want you to talk about safe sleep. If
Yeah,
you
yeah.
accepting funding from them, they want you to come to all of these meaningless meetings. They
Mhm.
want you to be on their agenda, right? Which I
Yeah.
can't be mad at that, right?
Mhm.
But for me, I've always been an advocate of home births and birthing centers, but at the same time, I was kind of made to have to partner with the hospitals, right? So that it kind of causes like a conflict
Yes.
internally, right? So it's like um this way, raising money this way allows for founders to do the work that they need to do without all of the red tape and the hoops
Right.
and all of the micromanagement and all of that. Like,
Yeah.
the reason why I was able to scale that organization the way that I was so quickly is because the state came in and gave us over $1 million. And when they gave me the $1 million, I asked them, I said, well, how do y'all want me to spend the money? And
Mhm.
they told me, they was like, spend it however you need to, which is unheard of. That's why I say it's divine,
Right.
because state dollars, they be tracking you, they be
Listen.
tracking, right?
They want to
And
know what you
so, but in this case, they were like, we just want you to scale it across the county, spend it how you need to. That's why we were able to get so much traction and so much
wow.
popularity and branding, is
Mhm.
because they gave me free reign to be able to use the money how I needed to.
Mhm.
And so I just want to give that to other organizations, founder led organizations, the opportunity to scale what they're doing without all of these strings attached, so that they
Right.
can continue doing God's work.
Wow. Oh my goodness, I love that. I'm like, I love you.
I love you
like,
too.
no, seriously, just the work that you're doing, in different aspects is just amazing. And I'm so happy that I got the opportunity to speak to you, because I just feel like, I don't know. I feel a part of the journey to be able to get your word and your messages out there, and also being able to educate everyone, and everyone who listens to this, everyone who shares it and all the things, on their options, because I know that these issues that we have spoken about is something that is not often spoken about, which is why I have this platform to speak about things that are not often spoken about. But just because we're not speaking about it doesn't mean it's not happening. And so I want to be able to spread different levels of awareness to women of our community, or people of our community, in order to say, like, there is a way, there is resources, there are people right within, within arm's reach. You just have to seek and go out and just look. But people that you are looking for do exist. And so I just wanted to just, I don't know, I'm really grateful to be able to speak to you, to even share this um, live over it with everyone, so that I could bring more people. And I hope I hope it's not overwhelming, but I hope that like everyone just like floods your page with just like likes, comments, just with everything and following everything that you have to offer, because literally, as you said, God's work, like I can just literally see it just like a rain off of you. And I'm so just like, we're not in person, but this is, you know, just to have you and speaking to you just feels like such a pleasure and an honor. So I am very grateful to have had this conversation with you
Oh,
today.
I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for you reaching out. Like, you know, my DMs be open anytime like women hit
Mm-hmm.
me up and it doesn't matter. Like if a
Mm-hmm.
woman needs to like talk or whatever, like I be there. So I appreciate. Can I ask what city are you in?
Yeah, so I'm in New Jersey.
Okay.
um, so it's definitely a ways away from you. But you know, transportation and all the things, it's not that far.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm based in New York and New Jersey.
Okay.
Hmm.
Nice. Yeah.
And
And
you
I don't
are
know. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if I said
Ohio.
that at first, but I'm in Cleveland though.
Yeah, I mean, you
Mhm.
said it through passing, but you
Okay.
didn't
Yeah.
actually specify Cleveland, Ohio.
Hmm.
So I'm going to wrap it up. Again, all that is watching, thank you for joining. This is In Session MFT, in being an acronym for the word intentional, so intentional sessions. When we have conversations, amazing conversations like we just had today, where we just talk about relationships and the relationships that we have with our bodies, relationships that we have with ourselves, others around, and the influences that they also have on our relationships with ourselves. We also use this platform to talk about conversations that needs to be held, because we need to be a part of the conversation, especially when it's a conversation about us. Thank you. Thank you so much for everyone who's joining. And good night, Ms. Farmer. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.